And so that's why Ford has lowered the MSRP, forcing the dealerships. In this video, I'm going to be exposing even more destruction that's headed for legacy automotive car dealerships. And many of these things you haven't even thought of, especially when it pertains to the car business. I'm Josh West, and this is Josh West 24/7. I'm a 15-year veteran of Legacy Automotive, but now I've seen that the Legacy Automotive Dealership Network is completely obsolete. And I'm going to continue to show you why. From the interior of my grandparents' Tesla Model X. Yes, my grandparents, 86 years old, their Tesla Model X. I borrowed it for a little bit to bring you this video. So we're sitting here in my grandparents' 2019 Tesla Model X, which they bought new about 4 years ago, and they absolutely love it. They're 86 years old, and they love all the autonomous features. They love all the safety, the way it drives and handles and all that sort of thing. And I'm going to do a couple of videos, actually. I've been talking to my grandfather, and we'll see about doing some videos to talk about how he's seen automotive change and why he chose a Tesla, and all the different vehicles that he's had over the years, and how he's seen the automotive world change since he was a little boy. So watch for those videos coming up. You know, it seems like every day there's a new tweet, a new article, a new piece of news that comes out, or even somebody just touching base with me from inside Legacy Automotive, and I get a little piece of news here and there. And it just seems like all of this information that's coming out is all pointing towards the demise of legacy automotive car dealerships. It's wild. And, you know, I'm going to continue to bring it to you guys the way that I see it. You know, I see it through my filter from my 15 years working in the car business, working in the dealership network. And some of this stuff that I'm seeing, and some of this changes that I'm seeing, and some of these news articles and things like that, issues that are coming up, are to me just glaring red flags, like massive red flags. And they're pointing towards the demise of legacy automotive car dealerships. And I want to bring three main topics to you today. Those three topics are something that's been on my mind for a little bit here, and it's going to be a little bit disjointed. I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff here, but I just want to share a few things with you guys, so you kind of get a better understanding of some of these issues that for you may just overlook and not even think about, but for somebody who worked a decade and a half plus in the car industry, to me, they're like, whoa, what's going on here? These are major, major issues. So let's dig into it. So the first issue I want to talk to you guys about is control, and how dealerships are losing it, completely losing control. Manufacturers, I believe, are out to pull back any control that the dealerships had up until this point. What I mean by that is anything where, you know, it's affecting the customer experience. Manufacturers have a big problem on their hands right now because there's so many newcomers that are going to the direct-to-consumer method, and even more so. We're going to see a huge flood of companies come in from China into North America selling cars, even potentially even more companies coming in from South Korea, Vietnam. We've already seen VinFast make its way across the ocean to start selling cars here in Canada and the United States. And they're all using a direct-to-consumer method, meaning that you don't have that dealership experience, which I think we can all agree, for the majority of us, doesn't reflect very well on the manufacturers. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen is the manufacturers are going to step in and begin to take back portions of the sales process. They're going to take back much stronger control of pricing to a point where they will eliminate the dealership from the sales process altogether. And so you say, well, what brings that to mind right now? Mainly what jumps off the page is Ford, what Ford's done with their pricing of the Mach-E. Recently, you may not be aware, but recently they just lowered the price of their electric SUV, the Ford Mach-E, by about $4,000 US, about 5,000 Canadian, just over 5,000. And so for most people, they're like, oh, look, Ford's following Tesla, they're lowering prices. And yeah, that's all well and good. You know, price wars rage on and all that good stuff. Sure. But what everybody seems to miss is the fact that up until this point, manufacturers only, like I'm talking legacy auto manufacturers, they only ever increased manufacturer prices, or MSRPs. They've only ever gone up. They've never gone down. What they've done in order to offer lower prices to consumers is use incentives. So every month, the dealerships get sent out a big long list of incentives, discounts that they can use on certain vehicles. So for example, the F-150 would maybe get $5,000 off this month, or the Mach-E might get $2,000, or the Explorer gets $1,500, and they'll have different combinations of rebates. So that begs the question, why would they lower the MSRP by $4,000 US? And I'll tell you why. It's because with these incentives that are given out each and every month to the dealerships, the window sticker remains the same. And so a customer doesn't really know that those incentives exist. Somebody walking in off the street or phoning in or emailing in or whatever the case. And manufacturers know that dealerships don't always give those rebates. Yeah, believe it or not, if they're given a $4,000 rebate, which I'd be like, well, why didn't they just give a $4,000 rebate on this Mach-E? Well, the reason is that Ford wants to make sure that those dealerships do not interfere with the lowering of their prices. Ford management at the manufacturer level wants to compete with Tesla. They have to in order to survive. And so by having these dealerships get in there and basically steal that rebate money, take that rebate money, not forward it to the customer, it hurts Ford's sales. And so the dealership, let me just give you a quick synopsis here of what the dealership level looks like. So they have a certain amount of demand for these Ford Mach-E's. It's the only electric SUV that Ford sells right now. As a Ford salesperson, you know, they're going to want to maximize the amount of commission that they'll make on the vehicle. And if they can get that rebate money from Ford, which they all do claim back the rebate money, but you don't give it all to the customer, well, you're going to get paid a percentage in commission of that $4,000 profit that you just basically fabricated on the deal. If obviously the customer comes in and pays MSRP. And so while they may get a home run on a few deals here and there, the problem is that that customer that's shopping around, perhaps they just shoot an email inquiry or they make a phone call, and that customer says, oh yeah, it's a $60,000 MSRP Mustang Mach-E. When do you want to come and look at it, Mr. Customer? And they're like, well, let me think about it and I'll call you back, whatever. So the salesperson, rather than say, oh, Mr. Customer, there's a $4,000 rebate on this vehicle. In fact, it used to be 60 and now it's 56, which would entice the customer to come in and buy that vehicle. They're holding out for that 60 because they want to make their, 30% commission or whatever they get paid on that additional $4,000, 30% of $4,000. It's a good chunk of change for a salesperson on top of whatever other markup was in that vehicle. And so for that salesperson, they would rather roll the dice on possibly getting that huge commission check and letting that customer go. And they figure, well, we can call them back later on and we can always lower the price. It's, you can't go up, you can always go down, but you can't put the price back up. Okay, great. But here's where the big problem comes in. You see, that customer hangs up the phone from that $60,000 price quote on that vehicle that should have been quoted at $56,000 if it had this rebate on it in theory. And they just go to their computer, they go to their phone, and they happen to go to Tesla and they look at the Model Y, which is the direct competitor to the Mustang Mach-E. And they look it up, and maybe they were just inquiring at that Ford store because it's down the road from them, or they really don't know much about Tesla, or who knows. But the reality is they go into Tesla's website and they look up the price of the Model Y and they're like, holy smokes, this thing is way less money than $60,000. I'm going to order it right here on my phone. They don't even have to call a company. They don't have to call a dealership. They don't have to talk to anyone at the company. They literally order it there on their phone. And by the time that salesperson wakes up and says, geez, I haven't heard from that customer. I quoted them that with all that profit in the vehicle, let me just follow up. Maybe they're a good salesperson and they follow up even by the end of the day or the next day or whatever the case. Mr. Customer, just John here, Joe here, Josh here at your local Ford store, calling about that Mustang Mach-E. Did you give any thought to that purchase, sir? What if I could do a better price? And the voice on the other end of the phone says, well, thanks for following up with me, Josh. But I've already ordered a Tesla. I've already bought a car. I'm out of the market. Game, set, match. And Ford loses a sale. Now, the salesperson might be like, ah, darn, I missed out on it, whatever. But those feelings passed and they try and get on to the next customer, because maybe along the way, they will bushwhack or hoodwink somebody into buying that Mach-E at the $60,000 price, make that big paycheck. And to them, hey, it's worth it, because if I had lowered the price and gone down it right out of the gate, it would have been a few $100 commission. But you know what? I'm going to hold out for that big fish, a couple of thousand commission. And what happens is Ford, on a grander scheme amongst all the salespeople, amongst all the dealerships, nationally and internationally, what happens? Bit by bit and day by day, they lose sales to their competitors. They lose sales to Tesla and others. And so that's why Ford has lowered the MSRP, forcing the dealerships, forcing those prices down and limiting the dealerships so that they are forced to not take that rebate money. So we're eliminating the dealerships. They are taking back control. Ford corporate is taking back control from the dealerships, and it's just another step forward to eliminating the dealerships, eliminating the sales process for a dealership, having set pricing and having a level playing field in order to get that customer before they buy from someone else so easily on their phone.